welcome back to Weatherford Days. I'm Rachel, this is Jason, and we are anticipating a fun discussion tonight.
We're in the third week of Andrew Lloyd Webber Musical Month.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this one was fun. This week we're discussing Jesus Christ Superstar, and what a journey this has been.
It's been a roller coaster of emotions.
Yes, it has
Ups
been.
and downs.
So this was my first time watching this. Should we start off saying abomination?
Well,
start off with, watching this production. It was the first time me watching it. I'd heard a few of the songs kind of out of context and kind of had decided, a while ago, yeah, that's probably just not something I'm going to enjoy. So never really, watched it, though I've watched a whole bunch of other things by Andrew Lloyd Webber and really enjoyed them. So yeah, when we were doing this was one that you really wanted to cover. So I kind of went along with it. And
it's interesting subject matter, and
it is. And
some of the music is it's rock music. It's a rock musical, rock opera. And I kind of like that kind of thing. So I'm kind of like...
I will say I am glad that I watched it just for the experience. And I found myself... so the journey here. First of all, we started watching a newer rendition, right?
Yes. It's the one on NBC that they did live, starring John Legend as Jesus.
So that was, within the past couple of years that it was done, right?
Yeah.
So we got a few songs into that, and I went, okay. I appreciated the way that it started, all the different instruments, and, I was like, this is kind of cool. I can dig this. But after we got past Judas's song and into Jesus starting to sing for the first time, and Mary, I went, I can't actually understand what Jesus is saying in this one. Like, Judas is just, he was great, but Jesus, you couldn't hear what he was saying. There was too much going on.
Maybe, or it just...
I don't know that it was the sound mix. I really think that it's just... I felt like the guy they had playing Jesus was not a very strong singer, and they had chosen to have a whole lot going on around him, and he wasn't strong enough.
He doesn't have... I will tell you about John Legend. He doesn't have upper ranges. He's more of a R&B kind of lower key kind of singer, piano player. So it's kind of smooth, and you got to hit those high G.
It wasn't the right role for him, I think.
Other people have said the same. They've said that some of those notes, especially in a particular song we'll get to, he doesn't hit those notes that he should. Yeah.
But at that point, and me just going, this is too much for me, and I want to be able to actually understand what the lyrics are so that I can analyze this,
And then
at that point,
then what did we do?
Yeah, we switched to the 1973.
The movie version.
Right.
Of the staged musical.
Because while we were watching it, that was, what you said was, oh, well, I remember this movie. That was what I was first.
That's the one I saw.
Right.
Yeah,
that's the one
I heard some
saw.
of the songs, but I heard the movie, yeah.
So we switched to that one. And oh, what an experience that was.
Oh, boy.
So that was the one that I got to actually watch all the way through. And I have to say, I could hear all the lyrics.
Uh-huh.
So that was good.
And what they were saying was...
It was rough. Wow. I laughed a lot.
Unintentionally so. I don't think they wanted you...
I got mad.
I don't think they wanted... Well, they might want that. But I don't think they wanted you to laugh. But we did anyway.
Oh, yes. That was the one that Okay, so you've got Caiaphas, the high priest, and his
and Annas.
Yeah, his side minion, who the contrast of their voices in that one is incredibly amusing. You've got this really deep bass, which I think that it's supposed to be a deep bass. Yeah. And it is, all the ones that I heard, which I'll get into what I did today. Yeah. Have been that same contrast between, a higher tenor and the deep bass. So it's been there, but the way that they contrasted and the very high falsetto tenor
of Annas.
Annas just...
I try not to laugh,
but it's hilarious.
Yeah.
It really, really is. And then, unfortunately, Mary Magdalene sounds like more of a cat howling than any of the cats in the play Cats. So...
Yes. And maybe this is where he started going, she sounds kind of like a cat. Cats? I should do a musical called Cats. No, that's not true.
No. I feel so bad saying that.
I feel bad for her because she tried and she really...
She's a good singer. These are difficult songs to sing. I think that is something that... Because, again... We finished watching the movie last night, and then today I went on a journey of just looking up multiple different versions of these songs being sung on YouTube. And yeah, I discovered that the one that I liked the most was done in 2012. And
the arena version, the one that was done in a large arena kind of tour. That one's... Yeah.
And with that one, it was actually what I wanted to do was be able to be, and the reason why I went on kind of this journey today is because I really left last night feeling kind of dissatisfied with the musicality of this. Because, yes, I got all of the lyrics and I got the, the theological issues that were there. But I also went, is this actually Andrew Lloyd Webber? What happened? Because I love Phantom of the Opera, just the music of it. Leaving the message
Joseph,
aside.
You really like Joseph? And
I like Cats. I'm going, I like Evita. Like all of the music that I have seen him do, I know that this is an extremely talented composer. Just someone that's able to pull emotion and evoke, these feelings through his music. And I left off out of this 1973 version going, that was really unpleasant. Just, the music of it. And I don't understand what they were trying to even say and what the undertones of this were. And usually I can get that out of a piece of music. If you don't know, I studied music education in college, and music is actually kind of a big deal to me. It's something that I really enjoy.
To a lot of people in our family, and how
it's
could
something
you not?
I enjoy analyzing, and it just... I felt very let down by what I'd heard. Just kind of going, there were a few songs that I actually went, okay, I like that song,
And some of the direction choices, I think, we had some trouble with too. But that's Norman Jewison is the director of this movie.
It was very, beautiful, the 1973 one. It's, set out, there's desert and rock formations, and, then... just some of the stuff, where they've got jets flying overhead and the guns, and they come in on a bus at the beginning, and the 70s clothing and the bell bottoms, and
I think what they were trying to do
with Jesus is wearing a biblical robe. And
I think what they're trying to do is this is early 1970s, and what's on people's mind is Vietnam and Richard Nixon and people lying to us in the government, and black power and all this kind of stuff, and the movements and these countercultures and the teens and the young people are standing up going, we're not having any of this. We're going to have peace any way we're going to have it. We're going to, so there's a rebellion. And so he's trying to create a parallel between the two by putting those elements in there.
Get that was supposed to be there.
Yeah.
I just felt like it wasn't extremely done well.
Yeah.
And
there's a couple scenes in there that are striking, but
the 2020s version with the very kind of, it looked almost apocalyptic type.
Mad Max Road Warrior.
Yes, it looked very Mad Max costuming and stuff, and I was like, I get that a little bit more than I get what they were doing in the 1970s. Even though I appreciated how much more stripped down it was, that I could, hear the lyrics more. It just, I don't know, that it was really interesting. But again, the 2012 version was the one that I actually went, okay, I can hear this and they're performing it well. And I feel like this is the way that the music was supposed to sound. It sounds more like what I know from Andrew Lloyd Webber. As far as just, the intricacies of the melodies mixed with the harmonies and the stories that it's, that it's telling. And, the Hosanna song, where you've got this Hosanna melody going, but there's almost, then it turns into this very ominous sounding harmony, like it's very antitonal.
There is that they take the Hosanna song and it flips afterwards to a crucify him afterwards.
Yeah,
later.
But not even that. Even just the part where it's like,
goes down.
Where it's like, would you die for me?
Yeah.
Like it's in that very part. It's like you've got this Hosanna.
Yeah.
The chords that it's written, just the way that it's bouncing there.
It almost
very
feels Hebrew.
Ominous.
It also feels kind of Hebrew because they have there's a minor key that comes into Hebrew and Israeli music.
But it's a very ominous feeling, more than Hebrew.
They wanted that to be there.
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of like it's just building and it's like, I can see this as you've got the crowds who are cheering Jesus on, that just a few days later they're turning to crucify them. It's written into the music, and that is, that's the genius that I'm used to seeing from Andrew Lloyd Webber, is this storytelling within the musical notes and the way that they're put together.
So if somebody doesn't know the story, I can sum it up. I'll try to sum it up a little bit easy. It is the story of Jesus, but Jesus less as the Son of God and more as a leader of a ragtag movement against a more imperial Rome, who has them under occupation. But it's less central of Jesus to the story than it is the characterization of Judas and his journey. You hear a lot more from him and how he feels about things, and why he did what he did, and why Jesus does what he does.
You have kind of a multi-part viewpoint. The majority is Judas.
Yeah.
But you also get the high priest viewpoint. You get the rulers of Herod and Pilate. They're popping in somewhat. And then you're also getting the disciples and the followers of Jesus
to an extent.
Perspective.
Yeah.
And you don't get a lot from Jesus. But what you do get is very interesting. So we're gonna.
Interesting is a good way to put it.
Yeah. We're gonna get into that.
So how do you want to proceed with that in terms of?
Well, what I was thinking was we'd kind of start with the first songs and just kind of go through the songs, and we'll look at some of the lyrics that kind of jump out the most,
mm-hmm.
and we'll kind of just take you through on this journey.
The first song is actually, if you want,
Judas.
Yes, but it's actually the one when I sing songs to myself from this musical that I know most of the lyrics to, I sing this one. It honestly, to me, it's got a cool rhythm to it. And the guy who is singing is Carl Anderson. He in the movie, he's killing it. Okay. Judas is killing it. No, Judas is really the actor, the singer is really bringing it. That's my opinion. I'm not a musical guy.
I feel like every version that I saw, the one who played Judas was really good.
Well, you have to live up to the originals.
Yeah. I think that, that's probably the most important casting, and
the song is
the one that was done well.
Heaven on Their Minds, and it's really catchy. I like it, but knowing the whole musical, it's the least one that messes with my theology of the biblical theology, because this is how Judas sees things. Mm-hmm. So it's adding a little characterization that's not necessarily in the Bible, but it's kind of combining some character traits, and it's Judas's own opinion and the way he sees things, and then I can just have that part of it walled off in my mind. I don't have to hear anything about what this Jesus thinks or doesn't think or doesn't know. And then I can kind of just enjoy it on its own.
It's pretty easy to characterize somebody that is, an anti-hero, right? Somebody that is the villain. It's pretty easy to give them villainous motives and nobody really objects too strongly. And that's the thing. In this, Judas is presented as somebody who is, his view of Jesus is that Jesus is just a man, that he's concerned that he's presenting himself as a Messiah, that people are calling him a Messiah, and he's concerned that they're going to find out that Jesus is not the Messiah. And there's,
he's ruffling too many feathers.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense for somebody who betrayed him to not believe that he was who he said he was. And we also know, that he's concerned about money, about feeding the poor. These are the things that we know about Judas, and I feel like they characterized him pretty well.
Yeah.
In the song. So, it's listen, Jesus, I don't like what I see. It's setting him up as, I've been your right-hand man all along.
Yeah. You're not the Messiah. They think you are, and when they get further on, they're going to find out you're not what you claim to be. So it's a movement that's out of control.
Yeah.
He thinks that we need to have more control over this movement.
I think the part where he says, I remember when this whole thing began, no talk of God then, we called you a man. And believe me, my admiration for you hasn't died, but every word you say today gets twisted round some other way, and they'll hurt you if they think you've lied.
So that line where he says, the twisted round some other way, he's talking about how the disciples or the apostles are going to write this stuff down. Mm-hmm. According to what I read, Tim Rice and Andrew Lloyd Webber early on were looking at what John Lennon of the Beatles said, where he said, rock and roll or Jesus were more popular than Jesus. And it was Christians all over America were like, how dare you say that? And he was saying that Jesus was an all right kind of guy. I can't do that invitation. He said, all right kind of guy. It's those apostles later that got it twisted round. So basically, but all that we know about Jesus is from, the majority of it is from their writings. We do have to have some extant stuff, but it matches up with a lot of what the disciples are saying. So who got it wrong?
Yeah,
don't you get me wrong?
The idea that Jesus was not the one that actually believed he was God. That was the disciples putting that on him, which is not, that's not okay.
No, and honestly, that is something that people still in theology struggle with today. There are plenty of people of a certain religion that do not believe that Jesus ever claimed to be God, or the Son of God. And they want to have him say, where in the Bible does he actually say, I am God, worship me? And he doesn't say that. But he claims other titles and other places that are divine, that are God.
And you see throughout this production, Jesus does not ever claim to be the Messiah, to be God, or to be the King. he actually denies multiple times. Like when he goes on trial, which we'll get to later on, that is the thing he says over and over again. That's what you said I am. I never said that.
But that's a misquote, though.
Yeah.
He does say...
They're twisting what he said in the trial out of context.
So who is twisting things? Was it the disciples, or was it people who wrote this? I would think who wrote this.
Yeah. So it's problematic from the very first song. And they go into, listen, Jesus, do you care for your race? Don't you see we must keep in our place? We are occupied. Have you forgotten how put down we are? Which that makes sense to me that would be his perspective.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have a problem with that part at all.
Because they were occupied.
Yeah, they were occupied. This was a dangerous thing that they were doing. And it makes sense from a biblical perspective that Judas would be concerned about that. So
right.
It's like there's some truth, but then there's some twisting.
And the thing is, if you think of it as this is how Judas sees things, but as you watch, you see clues that kind of show that Judas is kind of seeing the truth in some ways.
Right.
And I was telling
this play sets it up as this is the way Judas sees it, and actually Judas was right. Not this is the way Judas sees it, but actually he was wrong, which is what most retellings about Jesus do. It's like, oh, Judas was mistaken. In this one, it's like, Judas is proven right.
There's so many times I'm watching this and he's looking at disciples or Mary and what they're doing. He's like, what is up with these people? I'm like, I agree.
Yeah.
Honestly, I agree. They're kind of dumb.
It's like the way this is represented, it doesn't make sense.
It sounds like he's the only sane man in a world of craziness. Right. But that's not the truth. So.
Yeah. Listen, Jesus, to the warning I give. Please remember that I want us to live.
He won't listen to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the first song. Let's go to the second one.
Well, this one makes the apostles. It's called "What's the Buzz?" And Rachel was saying it's too repetitive. They keep saying the same thing too many times.
It is repetitive. It's supposed to be like. That's one of the things that on first watching it, I'm going, why? And then as I'm watching it again, done a little bit better, I'm going, okay, I get what they were trying to do with it, and it makes sense. It's not supposed to be a pretty song. It's supposed to resemble all of the noise and confusion that was going on. And in one way, yes, we know that the apostles or the disciples, they weren't apostles yet.
Right.
We know that the disciples did not necessarily understand, especially at the beginning, what Jesus was doing and why he was there. We know that they all kind of came into it with their own motivations. We know that, we had Simon the Zealot. We know that, they were, everybody up until the very end was expecting Jesus to have, this revolution, that he was supposed to lead them, that all of the miracles and the things that he was doing were supposed to start this sweeping fire that was supposed to overturn the government and set the Jews free again, And they had, in a lot of ways, there was historical precedent for that. Because they had watched people come and lead them out from oppression. You saw Moses, you saw,
Gideon, David, and everyone.
There had been these people throughout their history that had come and led them out, that had overturned governments that God had sent to do that. And for somebody to come to them when they were occupied and not actually set them free physically, that was a different thing, and yet I feel like Jesus was very clear about what he was doing from the beginning. He said to them again and again, my kingdom is not on earth. my kingdom is in heaven, and that this is a different thing that we're doing here.
Yeah, he said, if my kingdom was of the earth, don't you think my disciples would fight and shed blood to save it, when in fact it's not of this earth, and meaning you can't topple it.
Yeah.
And so, they were looking to be saved physically, and he was going, you can be saved physically. You can be freed from slavery in the physical realm and still be a slave to sin. So there's Jesus always takes things levels deeper than just this shallow Roman occupation. Yeah.
So that's what the song is going over. I mean, they're saying, what's the buzz? Tell me what's happening. And it's very repetitive. Jesus comes in and says, why should you want to know? Don't you mind about the future? Don't you try to think ahead. Save tomorrow for tomorrow. Think about today instead. Which, if you look at what the answers were that he actually gave in Scripture, that's a very shallow interpretation of his words to them. Which is a theme with this. Everything that Jesus replies is very, very shallow. So again, they're saying, what's the buzz? Tell me what's happening. He says, I could give you facts and figures, even give you plans and forecasts, even tell you where I'm going. Then they respond with, when do we ride into Jerusalem?
That's the big one, yeah. That's the one I remember, yeah.
And his response is, why should you want to know? Why are you obsessed with fighting? Times and fates you can't defy. If you knew the path we're riding, you'd understand it less than I.
That's a big. How could Jesus, who is divine, who knows his mission, who knows where he's going, long before he even gets there, he knows what awaits him in Jerusalem. And they're the ones who go, no, not you, Master. No, are you kidding?
This is again another
They're the
way
confused ones. He's the one who knows what he's doing.
They're trying to undermine the idea that Jesus and God are one. They're trying to say Jesus was just a man who had some prophetic ideas that you see later on, and yet he didn't really understand what was going. It's like he's at odds with God. He doesn't understand the path that he's on. So, and then you get Mary Magdalene saying, let me cool down your face a bit, which she repeats over and over and over again.
And she wants to put oil on his feet and all this kind of stuff. So, but
But Jesus' response is, she alone has tried to give me what I need right here and now. So again, for the first time, you're establishing another theme that Jesus has throughout this is, poor me, nobody cares about me. Except for Mary. Mary's the only one who actually cares about me. And you will see that again and again. So that's pretty much the song. We see that everybody cares about what they think Jesus is going to do for them. Jesus is frustrated with everything that they're saying and kind of overwhelmed by all of the talking, and nobody's actually listening to him, and Mary's the only one that cares about him. Next song.
But quick point about Mary. I'll try to sum this up. The Catholic Church, for the longest time, thought of, conflated Mary Magdalene with a woman living in sin, and then they thought of that as prostitution. And they do mention someone of her profession in this musical. That came from, I think it was Pope Gregory back in the 500s. He did a homily or a teaching where he kind of combined three different Marys. There was a lady whose tears washed his feet. There was Mary of Bethany, who is Lazarus' sister, and she used oil on him, but it wasn't anything romantic at all. In fact, it was opposite. They said it was for his burial. So that was a God-led moment. And they even connect her somehow with the woman who was caught in adultery. Wrong. The Bible says that she was a woman who was healed of 7 demons, possession of 7 demons. she also witnesses Jesus' resurrection. She's there at the cross. She's not cast away and said, oh, woman, you're a second-class citizen. She's part of this. But to connect her with those things, I think it's unfair. And they also kind of dumb her character down a great deal, and therefore dumb Jesus down by his reaction to her.
And they kind of make her a romantic love interest, which you have Judas objecting to the fact that Jesus is dallying with a prostitute, and
it's bad for image. He's like, not that I don't like women, or something.
He's like, not that I object to her profession.
Right.
It's just,
it's a bad look.
You're being hypocritical, by actually, doing this. So it's very strongly implied that Jesus and Mary are a couple.
And the thing is, Judas is like, I don't like that you're hanging around with her like that. And I'm like, I kind of agree, but I don't think for the reasons
They're
you do.
letting you touch her and kiss you and stuff, and it's like, okay.
He's right. It's bad.
Yeah.
But he's written. But he's written that way.
Is that,
he's written to be correct.
This isn't actually from the Bible. So anyway.
And the next one we get Caiaphas and Annas kind of deciding of what they're going to do, if and when they're going to take him out, how they're going to do it.
Which theologically, I don't have a lot of issues with this song. I think that it works.
Comedically, it's great. Comedically, it makes me the voices
and
make me laugh.
And again, that depends on what version you're watching. It has been done where it's not as funny as the 1973 version. The 1973 version is hilarious. Other versions, not as much.
And this song is not super memorable. Like if I were to ask people, hey, what songs do you remember from Jesus Christ Superstar? This is not one of them. This is really just storytelling. So
it's fine. Like, the whole idea of the priest of the Jews were, having an issue with him and the influence that he was gaining and the reputation and the fact that, they're going, this is dangerous for us and for our people. All of that makes sense. It's biblically, it's fine. There's not really a problem with it.
Oh, of course, we kind of just talked about strange thing, mystifying, which is where Judas is confronting Jesus for his relationship with Mary. So that's kind of what that's about. And then, unfortunately, we get to everything's all right. Everything's fine. And guess what? In answer to that, it's not. It's really not.
The thing is,
but anyway, go ahead.
Is I feel like this was supposed to come across as not very convincing.
How so? Okay, tell me. What do you mean?
I feel like just musically, Mary appears very weak in this, in how she's going, try not to worry, try not to be upset, and even though Jesus is kind of sitting there and listening to her and, accepting her ministering to him, it really, it's overshadowed by Judas coming in and being like, how dare you let her touch you and all of this. And that's, that is when you kind of jumped to this song before,
Judas
but this is when he actually does confront.
He wants to chill Jesus out a little bit because because they're saying like we're getting a little too loud. I'm frightened by the crowd and going to get way too loud. He's wanting to calm things down, but so is she. But at least he still wants something to be done about a mission. If Mary Magdalene had her way in this musical, he would just settle down with her in the hills somewhere,
Yeah.
It's like, I have a stressful life coming up. And then she's like,
just trying to say,
rest, sleep. Good.
Right. But you can see that there's kind of this conflict and this pull where Jesus is kind of going, yeah, okay, but I've got this bigger mission. And you've still got, everybody and kind of, and all of the noise going on behind him. I just don't feel like this comes across as it musically. If we actually wanted to believe that Jesus could just be calm, I don't think it would have been written this way. Mary comes across, and her message comes across as very weak musically, and I think that was intentional. because you still have this conflict that's coming in behind it and in through the middle of the song and everything. It's like, we get that Mary wants that, but it's not possible. And it's also everybody knows it.
It is also controversial. And why wouldn't they have a controversial song in a controversial musical about Jesus?
Because this is the point at which she opens up the expensive oil and anoints Jesus with it. Not his feet, where she's crying and actually repenting of her sins, which is biblical, but she's just rubbing it on his head and his shoulders. And then Judas comes in and says, "Woman, your fine ointment, brand new and expensive, should have been saved for the poor. Why has it been wasted? We could have raised maybe 300 silver pieces or more. People who are hungry, people who are starving, they matter more than your feet and hair." So, and Mary pretty much just ignores Judas.
Well, first off, Judas in the Bible did make a comment about that, but the Mary that did it was most likely Mary, the sister of Lazarus, not Mary Magdalene. So, what? They're getting people mixed up. And again, this is a mixed up musical, to be sure.
What was striking to me was Jesus' response, because he comes back, even though Mary's trying to calm things down, he's not going to ignore what Judas said. He goes, "Surely you're not saying we have the resources to save the poor from their lot. There will be poor always, pathetically struggling. Look at the good things you've got. Think while you still have me. Move while you still see me. You'll be lost and you'll be sorry when I'm gone." Which is one of the lines I have the most problem with.
I know what it's based off of. He's saying the poor will always be with you. And he's trying to say, guess what? Yeah. My time is short.
But they twisted that to Jesus just not even caring about the poor and being like, "What, you think that we can actually do anything about this?" That's not, Jesus did not say, "Do you actually think we have the resources to feed the poor?" Jesus took 5 loaves and, what was it?
Two fishes.
2 fishes?
Two.
Yeah.
Measly 2.
And fed 5,000 people with it.
Yeah.
And he's going to actually say, "Do you think we actually have the resources to feed the poor?" That wasn't what Jesus' message was.
Right.
By far. For him to say, "The poor you always have with me," and then him to say, "You think we actually have the resources?" No, that wasn't the meaning behind Jesus' words. And if these people had ever listened to a sermon, they should have known that. I'm just like, how do you get this so wrong? It's crazy to me. So
now this one I didn't have a lot of problem with. It's this Jesus Must Die. It's got Annas and Caiaphas and some other priests. Yeah, sorry, they're up at the top above, and it does mirror a scene from the Bible, but they're singing, Hosanna, Hosanna, as he's coming in, which is pretty close to what it was.
You have the triumphal entry, but it's from kind of the perspective of the priest watching the entry.
They're saying he's dangerous.
Right.
And there is a part where they say, the crowd needs to be quiet, and he does say that the rocks will cry out, but he says it in a different way, and it just doesn't reflect the truth of what's going on. But this is where they are seeing the movement that Jesus has, and they're saying, okay, we are decided. We were decided before, but really, this is really getting out of hand. We need to do
and
this.
This is where they really kind of drive home the whole Jesus Christ superstar theme, or where they first kind of introduce the fact that he's a superstar, which I think is important to the play. This whole idea of things are getting out of hand between, the play is saying that Jesus did not have control over his reputation and what was being said, and that things are spiraling. So you have Judas at the very beginning that's going, warning this is getting bad. And you see over the course of this play how bad and how much things are spiraling out of control. And it's just building where Jesus has absolutely no control, according to this. And he's being just kind of swept along by the crowd's perception of what they think his message is and what they think he's here to do.
He's a celebrity.
Right.
And this is throughout the entire play, the musical, you see that it's comparing Jesus to a modern day celebrity.
Right. So they're saying, he's got this reputation. People think that he's going to do these things. They're building up all of these hopes and these dreams, and it's this mob mentality that's building, which, again, I can kind of see why they would paint this way. If you take away the belief that Jesus is God and he came here for this reason, that he actually intended to die and that he rose again, that the death was not the end. If you take away that knowledge and you just look at it as he was a historical figure who got swept up in something that was too big for him, then it makes sense to paint this picture of him. It's a very sad picture that we're being given here, because you really are looking at it as, what if Jesus was just a man? What if he just got swept up in something?
In the hype.
Right. And, if all along his entire mentality is just, nobody actually cares for me and who I am. Nobody understands me.
Well, I would say
I
would say many did not understand, and many of the things that only made sense in retrospect, because you see Matthew in Matthew's gospel, he goes, oh, and this thing is connected to this. It's almost like he's going and seeing the bigger picture.
But there's a difference between somebody out in an ocean being swept along by the waves and somebody who is riding and controlling the waves. And we know that Jesus was controlling the waves. He was directing them. He was in charge of it. Or at least he was secure in the knowledge that God, his Father, was in control.
Not a miracle worker, this Jesus in this musical, though.
Yeah.
And then you want to do the next one?
Yeah.
So Simon Zedete's song.
We're moving from he's had triumphal entry, and now we're getting to Simon the Zealot and his song. So we're getting kind of a different perspective here.
I think he's seeing them coming into Jerusalem. He's like, remember they were saying, when do we ride to Jerusalem? He's like, oh, we're riding to Jerusalem now. So he's like, this is it. It's happening. He's more political in the ways that he talks about things. He's talking about the filth from Rome, who've terrorized our people for too long. He's saying, I believe in you and God, so tell me that I'm saved. But at the same time, he'll flip it and go, oh, we're gonna take him out now. And Jesus just stands there listening.
There must be over 50,000 screaming love and more for you. And every one of 50,000 will do whatever you ask them to. Keep them yelling their devotion, but add a touch of hate at Rome. You will rise to a greater power. We will win ourselves a home.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's...
Power and glory on earth is what that is.
So you're kind of seeing this contrasted with Judas giving him caution and saying things are getting out of control. Simon the Zealot is going, yeah, let's go. This is it. It's time. We ride at dawn.
And, of course, Jesus, responding to that, says, none of them know what's going on. Simon, nor the 50,000, nor the Romans, nor the Jews. And this is a song called Poor Jerusalem. He is saying, you don't know what power and glory is. He says, to conquer death, you only have to die. You only have to die. So this is the first time that we're seeing him say, I have to die.
You see a bit of understanding. Like, this is probably the one little snippet of a song. It doesn't last long, but that I actually feel like Jesus had some kind of a good representation of himself or an understanding. And it comes on the end of chaos, and then it very quickly moves on to even more chaos and more doubt and more confusion coming from Jesus. So,
well, everybody's kind of confused, and the only one who's not confused is Judas or whoever. But Pontius Pilate has a little solo song that he gets to sing real quick. He gets a bigger part later on with regard to after Jesus gets captured. But he talks about a dream he had about a Galilean who spread some kind of message, and I saw that people attacked him, and I get the blame for it. So again, you see another character saying, you hear Judas later talk about the blame that's going to be laid at their feet. We're just doing what we're supposed to do, and history is going to see us as bad guys or villains. Another villain in Pontius Pilate.
This is kind of one of those songs that it's like, okay, it's in there.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a big impact. There's not really anything theologically wrong with it. It just is fine.
And
next.
Yeah. The next one is about the temple, and there's money changers and merchants, and there's go-go dancers and machine guns and various horrible things. And and Jesus comes through and knocks tables over. I'm like, yeah, okay, good deal. And
this is one of those that it's like, okay, this needed to be in there, but yuck for the way they did it. There's a couple of scenes in here that it's just like, ew, And again, it probably does come down to which production you're watching and, how they choose to actually do this scene, whether it's done.
But whereas you may think, okay, he turned the tables on the money changers. All right, that's biblical. And it follows up with the scene of him and the lepers.
Yeah. This is the worst.
I freaking hate this scene.
This is the worst. Like, honestly, this is the one that made me more angry than anything else in this production.
Yeah, they overwhelm him. And I would say
you've got Jesus. Okay, he's overturned the tables, and he's kind of sad at what has been done in the temple, and then he walks out, and all of a sudden all of these people start coming up to him, and they're lepers,
crawling out of holes in the ground,
blind, and they're saying, "See my eyes, I can hardly see. See me stand, I can hardly walk. I believe you can make me whole. See my tongue, I can hardly talk. See my skin, I'm a mass of blood. See my legs, I can hardly stand.
Yeah.
I believe you can make me well." So there's a lot of belief that's coming from these people, but it's a lot. And they come up, and Jesus just stands there until he gets swarmed over and covered by them. And all that he says throughout this entire thing, "There's too many of you, don't push me. There's too little of me, don't crowd me." And it ends with him screaming, "Heal yourselves."
He is the great physician.
Never would my Jesus have screamed out, "Heal yourselves." That is the most blasphemous.
That's a big switch up. Your faith has made you whole to heal yourself. That's 100% opposed. There was time when the crowd did crowd around him, but Jesus felt the power leave him for only one person in that situation. It was a lady who had a issue of blood for 12 years. Mm-hmm. And he said, stop. I felt the power. Somebody touched me. And they said, Master, everyone's crowding around you. But see, he stopped. Instead of going, oh, I'm feeling overwhelmed, he turned around and wanted to focus on her and say, what's going on, and talk to her. He's moved with compassion. It said he said he saw the crowd and their needs and was moved to compassion. He often would go off by himself and pray, okay? But I think in that solitude, the voice of God just gets large. And that's just something that we can all do.
But you never, ever in Scripture see him refuse to heal anyone. It absolutely is bewildering why they would put this in here.
Not if they had faith. If they had faith, he was in a place where he couldn't do that, but it was because of their faith. But if they have faith, he's like, I'm going to be moved.
Prompt people to have faith. You saw the words before the miracle that actually set up him going, this is not just about what I'm doing for you physically. I care about your heart.
Forgiveness. He even forgave sins while he's doing the healing. Yeah. And the Pharisees freak out and they go, who is this man to forgive sins? And they're like, I just healed this guy. Which one are you getting more mad at? So again, there's a heart change that he's focused on, but there's still a physical change too in the healing. So this is a very big mischaracterization, and it's all downhill from here as far as I can tell.
Yep.
Yeah. Mary Magdalene, who is not a prostitute, and this she is, she doesn't know how to love him, but he's just a man, and I've loved so many men before. What's one more? And I'm like, really? Yeah.
Yeah. So you get, I guess they're trying to show, the perspectives of all the different people and the reactions that Jesus is evoking in them, is they don't really understand why they feel the way that they feel about him. And honestly, I think that everybody in the audience is probably, on the same page of why are the way they're characterizing Jesus. I don't understand why they love him either, any of them. You see not only Mary that has this theme, you actually see Judas later that actually reprises the song. And it's one of those where it's just, we're all kind of wondering, why do I feel the way that I feel about him? He's just a man, but, there's something different about him, is what they're saying. And yeah, this was the one that she sang that from the 1970s version, I was just going, oh my goodness, she just sounds like a cat howling in the desert, which was quite hilarious, but also
unintentionally so, probably.
Yeah. But the 2012 song, the one who sang it, which she was a Spice Girl, I think we said, she actually does it really well. So it's, it's not the song itself. It's, sometimes it's a quite beautiful song. It's just, from a theological perspective, it is problematic. So
we also see Judas in the next song, Blood Money. This is where he goes to the priest and actually says, he's saying he doesn't want to be tarnished with this for all time, to be seen as a villain. But when they show him the money, he's just it's almost like he's kind of goaded into it and he goes, oh, fine, I'll do it. But Judas didn't seem to have a problem with it. He has a problem with it later in the Bible, but he didn't have a problem with it straight off the bat. He's like, I know where he's going to be. I'll take you there. It's going to be in the garden. And
yeah. I will say, when you listen to this straight through, it is very moving. Just, you do have to realize Andrew Lloyd Webber was a wonderful composer. He knew how to evoke emotion through the music that, he put. And I mean, I don't love that he chose to do this with Tim Rice. I put a lot of blame on Tim Rice, who wrote the lyrics, but this was, if you look at just the emotions that are coming up, and this is something that is loved by so many people, and it's loved by so many people because it takes you through this emotional journey, and you can see and understand a lot of what's being told here. Just because we're pulling out these things that we're going, this is wrong theologically, there's still a lot of beauty in this. And you can, even as a Christian, you can sit here and appreciate a lot of the emotions and the turmoil that was going on, and how this music paints this picture emotionally, and the understanding that you can gain through it, through the things that, all the different perspectives. I don't like how they characterize Jesus, but a lot of how everybody else is characterized is really well done. So, I think last week we were like, will we be able to find anything good in this? There is some good. And I want to say that there is some good.
We say that, but then we get to the Last Supper scene.
Yeah.
Oh boy. And the Last Supper scene characterizes the apostles, these disciples, as just kind of, they're there to get drunk and pass out and and just, and be chill. They even talk about, when we retire, we can write the Gospels and they'll still talk about us when we've died. But
don't leave out the first line, though. Look at all my trials and tribulations, sinking in a gentle pool of wine. Don't disturb me now, I can see the answers. Till this evening is this morning, life is fine. Always hoped that I'd be an apostle, knew that I would make it if I tried. Then when we retire, we can write the Gospels, so they'll still talk about us when we've died.
They had no idea anybody was going to talk about them after they died, and they died really badly. Almost all of them were martyred, and the ones that did survive survived in prison.
Considering that one of the major conspiracies around the Gospels has, still to this day remains something that came up immediately after Jesus rose. He was resurrected, was that the apostles stole the body, started this rumor that he had, actually risen again, and everything that happened afterwards was from them. So they wrote the Gospels, they started this movement. They were basically hangers-on of Jesus that just capitalized on his popularity and wanted to keep this movement going for their own fame and fortune, right?
They got no fortune from it.
Which, it's pretty easily countered by the fact that they all were martyred. They were all killed for their beliefs, and never once did any of them, under torture and death, actually recant their belief that he had died, which is not normal. If they had made it up, some of them would have cracked under that pressure and actually said, no, this is, it's not actually true. None of them did. They all, and that's just,
That's a big proof for the resurrection.
It's a heresy that's been around for millennia, and it is written into this idea that the disciples were all about their own fame and fortune, that Jesus was just a man, and that they invented all the rest of it. That's what this is based off of.
And Jesus is saying, you don't understand what I'm about. You guys have blank faces. You're kind of dumb. One of you is going to betray me. One of you is going to deny me, which that's not a lie. It's true.
Which is, here's where you actually see that Jesus has some foreknowledge, which I went, oh, cool. Okay. They put that in there. And then very quickly, next song.
Yes. Jesus does go off by himself.
They destroy it.
He takes one line where in the Bible where Jesus is saying, if this cup pass from me, it'd be my wish. Yeah.
If it be your will, let this cup pass from me.
But not my will, but yours be done. And that is taken into this long song where he doesn't know why he has to die. And he belts it at the high G7, whatever, the high note. And it's very emotional and stuff. But if you know the truth and know the real story, the struggle that he had was not what the struggle they're giving him. And he finally...
I saw so many people in comments on the song saying just how moved they were by the emotion in this. And it made me want to cry that people are being inspired and feeling like, oh, I can see the humanity of Jesus in this song. And it's like, but this is, yes, he cried, he was anguished and he cried tears of blood. But do we honestly think that all of that was because he was afraid of death? Do we not realize that the biggest anguish was because he knew everything that was going to happen, all of the sorrow and the pain that was going to come on others, and that also he was taking on the punishment for the sins of everyone in the world, that he was paying that anguish? And we're going to turn this into the lyrics here. The lyrics here. I'd have to know, my Lord, why should I die? Can you show me now that I would not be killed in vain? Show me just a little of your omnipresent brain.
Yeah.
Show me there's a reason for your wanting me to die. You're far too keen. He's talking to God here. You're far too keen on where and how, but not so hot on why. All right, I'll die. Just watch me die. See how I die. But he also, before this, he says, take this cup away from me, for I don't want to taste its poison. Feel it burn me. I have changed. I'm not as sure as when we started. Then I was inspired. Now I'm sad and tired. Listen, surely I've exceeded expectations. Tried for 3 years seems like 30. Could you ask as much from any other man? But if I die, see the saga through and do the things you ask of me. Let them hate me, hit me, hurt me, nail me to their tree. I'd want to know, my God. I'd want to see, my God, why I should die. Would I be more noticed than I ever was before? Would the things I've said and done matter anymore?
Yeah. And the last line he says, fine, I'll die. Take me now before I change my mind.
But before that, why then am I scared to finish what I started? What you started? I didn't start it. God, thy will is hard, but you hold every card. I will drink your cup of poison. Nail me to your cross and break me. Bleed me, beat me, kill me. Take me now before I change my mind. That's the lines before that. So he's basically saying, I didn't choose this. You did. You forced this on me. I didn't want it. I don't understand it. I want to know that this actually matters, that there's a purpose, and the idea that Jesus would have, that any of those thoughts were the thoughts that he had in Gethsemane is just, it's mind-boggling. And the fact that people are looking at this and going, wow, this is so inspiring. I can't believe that, and actually resonating with this is just, I don't know, that's scary to me. But this is the power of music. music can be used for so much good. It is literally the language of the emotions, but it can also be used for so much wrong. When you have people thinking that they understand the mind and heart of Jesus from a song like this that's very powerfully written, and yet it's such a twisting of scripture. It's just like, I don't know. I just, that's scary to me. It's so much worse than going, the story of Joseph is, it's missing the elements of God in it and what, God's plan was for Joseph. But it's still telling the story, and you can add, God's plan in. This, it's like, wow, you are taking and twisting the most important, like Jesus coming to earth and his revelation of what God intended for him was set up and foreshadowed from the very beginning of the Bible through to the end. And it's the most important story that ever has been or could be told. And somebody is taking this genius for music that God gave, and it's heartbreaking. I don't think I have ever seen anything that I've just gone, I'm so sorry that this was made. So sorry that this is out there, and I just can't get over that. This breaks my heart how Jesus was characterized in this. But let's keep going. We're getting close to the end.
Literally. So he is arrested and taken to Annas and Caiaphas, and you see the people kind of turning on him and saying, calling him out for, now you're getting caught. And it's kind of this, you see the turn in the people. They do then take him to Pilate after that. You get Peter's denial, which that actually is biblical. Mm-hmm. They don't veer too far off from that.
A lot of the next few things, you see in Pilate's courts, and then he goes to Herod, and then he comes back to Pilate. These were fine. I didn't really have a problem with that. I enjoyed Herod's song a lot. I think that the fact that they're out there in, swimsuits and bikinis and stuff with Herod, and, Herod is taunting him, it's actually pretty fun. And I feel like, as a modern representation of what actually happened,
like the corruption and but he is instead of being a powerful figure, he is a fool. He's very foolish, Herod, as he's portrayed this.
The one thing that I didn't like in all of these, when he goes before the high priest, when he goes before Pilate, when he goes before Herod, and then back to Pilate, the only thing that you hear from Jesus again and again is, you said that I was the king. I never said that. And the way that he says it in all of these, you said it. It really feels like Jesus is just overwhelmed and he's out of control, and like he's still trying to deny what's actually got him here. He's still saying, I never even said any of this. So it's still this idea of, he was a superstar that's just kind of been swept along by the waves of everything that's been happened. He wasn't responsible for his own reputation. It was the people and, his followers and everything that have kind of like pushed him into this situation. And, which again is this idea of Jesus being out of control of the situation and not at peace with the situation, which, when I look at Jesus going through all of these different circumstances and being quiet in the face of this, I'm going, he was calm in this boat. You know, I go back to when Jesus, you know, was on the Sea of Galilee with his disciples. And, you know, there's this storm going on and he's asleep in the boat. And his disciples all wake him up and they're like, you know, don't you care we're about to die? And he's like, you know, if you still don't have any faith, have peace, be still, you know, and then the storm stops. Like, I feel like that was Jesus' attitude here too, is he's going, I'm at peace. I know that, yeah, there's a storm going on, but I know what's happening and it's all good and I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.
There's also the prophecy, the sheep before its shearers is silent.
Right.
And this is the Lamb of God. And he says very little to people. In fact, he lets other people say things and he, you know, kind of responds to them in such a way that it's kind of like they're doing these things. But, you know, so for me, I think that they did show him with his mouth quiet, or being quiet in these scenes in the musical, which I thought was a little bit close to it. But the thing is, Jesus throughout the Gospels is saying quite a bit. He's speaking about quite a bit. He's commenting on quite a bit. In this movie, he barely has anything to say. So him being quiet at the end just makes it just plays into this image of a weak man.
Yeah.
It doesn't show someone who is strong, silent type. He has this
you don't see the
weak
strength and the peace that he had.
Yeah.
You see just this tired and despairing
end of his rope, so to speak.
And he already said to his disciples before this, you know, it's over now. Why are you so obsessed with fighting? You know, that was in the song when, you know, after
Earlier,
Judas betrays him. You know, he's like, it's over. Go now and just fish. Like, he's literally just saying, it's over now. Just stop. And then you see him just like, yeah, I've just given up. It's over. And it's like, yeah, it's not right.
And of course we see Mary and Peter and the disciples saying, could we start again, please? And they're basically saying, this has gone wrong. Can we get a do-over? Can we get a mulligan? And it kind of just goes, again, these are people who don't understand his mission and what's going on, even though Jesus explains it to them. So it's one thing to say that someone's clueless, but the way it's portrayed, it shows a cluelessness that was not in the Bible.
Oh, and Judas' death.
Yeah. Judas, of course, he's feeling bad that he betrayed Jesus. I only did what you wanted me to. As if
Jesus did tell him to go and do it.
But that
in this,
but Satan had already had him, and he was saying, "Go ahead, do it quickly."
This is really emotional and it's really dramatic, and you know it's a very big scene because the entire thing has been Judas' perspective all along, right? So we see kind of the ending of this where Judas is going, you know, I knew that this was going to happen and I was a part of it, but also you made me do it. And
you have murdered me is his last line before he hangs himself.
And he's still denying who Jesus is. He says, and again, this is where he comes back in and he says, I don't know how to love him.
Which is an answer to
I don't
Mary's,
know why he moves me. Yeah, so
Mary's lines.
Yeah, he's reflecting on all of this. You see his anguish. He goes, he's a man. He's just a man. He is not a king. He is just the same as anyone I know. He scares me so. When he's cold and dead, will he let me be? Does he love me too? Does he care for me? My mind is in darkness. God, I'm sick. I've been used, and you knew all the time. God, I'll never ever know why you chose me for your crime. You're so bloody, Christ.
As if
you have murdered me.
As if he has Jesus has blood on his hands and not right. Judas.
So Judas goes to his death whining and crying about how badly he's been used, which makes the next scene really interesting too. Because, well, yeah, we have the trial before Pilate, which it's just kind of, yeah, all right. And, Jesus' answer. Pilate's asking him, listen, King of the Jews, where is your kingdom? Jesus says, I have no kingdom in this world. I'm through. There may be a kingdom for me somewhere, if you only knew.
That is not what Jesus said.
Nope, that's not right.
He says, my kingdom is not of this world.
Then Pilate says, then you are a king? Jesus again, it's you that say I am. I look for truth and find that I get damned.
Not only Judas is not the only one saying, woe is me. Jesus is saying, woe is me as well. Poor me.
So Jesus is still going, why is this even, it's not, I didn't do anything here. It's everybody else who's saying stuff, not me. Which is, again, just repeated through this entire thing. And then Judas comes back from the dead to give us a final song.
Commentary.
Yep, he's commenting. So Jesus is being crucified. And what do we see? We see Judas, which it's done differently in different productions, but he's kind of coming down from the sky, hanging on to a star. And like everyone, he kind of just ascends from the heavens, right? And then he's joined by this angelic choir. These people dressed in white in the
disco dancing.
Yeah,
chickas.
well, in the 2012 version, they kind of look like Victoria's Secret angels. They all have wings, and they're all wearing very scanty lingerie type clothes. So yeah, that's lovely. My remark was they should have been dressed in red because I'm pretty sure this is the denizens of hell that are speaking right now.
Yeah.
Not angels. The angels knew what was going on. It was the demonic forces that were taunting Jesus on the cross. So the only way this makes sense is if Judas was in hell and all of the people surrounding him and singing this thing are also from hell. Because what they do is really, Jesus Christ, who are you? What have you sacrificed? Jesus Christ, superstar, do you think you're what they say you are? They're literally taunting Jesus as he dies on the cross.
There's a line that I latched onto in this. He says a lot. Judas says, don't you get me wrong. I want to sit on that for half a moment and say this. He's trying to say, audience, don't get me wrong. Don't. I've been portrayed as a villain, but I just did what God wanted me to, really. I'm a pawn of God's plan, just like Jesus is a pawn of God's plan. And I was a part of it. I made it happen. And he's saying, why did you even do this at this time in history? There's no mass communication. Why can you do it in the modern times? You did it in this time when it's not going to go over well. And it's like he's chiding Jesus and saying, like, I was in the right. And don't you get me wrong.
And the fact that he also talks about Buddha, Muhammad.
Yeah.
Follows that up by, did you mean to die like that? Was that a mistake? Or did you know your messy death would be a record breaker? Don't you get me wrong, I only want to know.
And then it repeats the Jesus Christ Superstar song.
In the 2012 version, they've actually got him up on like this sound bar with Judas and all these people kind of dancing underneath him. You're going to have to put in a screenshot of that because it is a very striking imagery that's going on right there. Like they've got Jesus hanging up in the sky, and then at the end they make it like into a cross, like with the lights, and it's just like, whoa. Yeah.
Well, when they do crucify him, the movie suddenly decides, we're going to go somber now. We're not going to be rocking. We're going to go somber. And some of the quotes are actually pretty close to, he says, it is finished. Father, into your hands I commend my spirit. All these, but they're not understanding quite what all that meant. And they do not show, in many of the earlier versions, they do not show Jesus' resurrection. I was talking to Rachel about this.
And
I said,
the way that Andrew Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice wrote it.
Right, but I think that
it ends.
But they added in some
the
of the
crucifixion.
But the staging, they add a little, no song, but they add a little scene that hints that he's rising into heaven, or there's a light coming from the tomb, or something like that. I think because people, they want that happy ending, and they want that so bad that they even throw people a bone and do that in the musical, and that shows that is what they are trying to do.
Okay, sorry we caught off mid-thought there. We had our camera die, so yeah, we're gonna come back and hopefully finish that thought. But sorry about that. So yeah, so we were at the ending, we were saying that some of them had resurrection, hints of the resurrection,
yes,
but that
some creative flourishes to kind of hint that had happened. Yeah. And to me, it's kind of a cop-out, because you go through the whole play saying, this is not God, this is not the Son of God, this is just a man, and resurrection, and you're like, that comes out of nowhere. He did,
The intention was that this was just a man, and that this is where his journey ended. That was what they were trying to say. And if you're a Christian, that's just the most tragic thing of all, because the hope is in what came next, in that, he did come back. He resurrected after 3 days, and he talked to people. There were, thousands of people who saw and could bear witness to the fact that he came back, and that he was who he said he was, which was God. He was not just a man, and he did not claim to be just a man. He said he was man and God in one, and painting him as just a man who was misunderstood, whose words were twisted by his disciples, it's a heresy. And as good
at
as
its worst, it's a heresy. At its very least, it's a mischaracterization of a truth.
And to have someone who, again, was so incredibly musically gifted and able to, carry people and emotionally through the stories that he created, to tell this story and to get it so wrong, it's sad. But thankfully we have a lot of retellings of this story that are done very well. So we're not stuck with this one. It's not the only one.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think that the challenge is that people don't just when people want to be counterculture, or they want to be rebellious, they take a story and go, well, what if we do it this way? What if we twist it? We twist it around our own, or we're telling the truth. But in fact, what they're doing is another twist. They're just still twisting things. And they have a hard time understanding the hypostatic union, which is man and God in one. And this is the way that God, planned it from the beginning. But I think what we try to do, I think I mentioned this to Rachel the other night, was in order to make sense of Jesus, instead of us being pulled up to his level, to rise up to the divine, to understand it, to come to where he is, we have to bring him down to our level. And what it does is it cheapens him. It cheapens him. It cheapens his mission. Whatever you might think that is, it cheapens it and makes it just kind of like just another preacher with some good message. And oh, poor guy, he couldn't hack it.
So, yeah, I guess that is our review. This was our journey and our experience with this. And it's, there are going to be a lot of people that really, really loved this. A lot of people that have deliberately never watched this because of, the rumors around it. And I'm glad that I watched it. I'm glad that I experienced it. I am also very sad that it is what it is, because, again, I think that somebody that was that gifted, I wish that he had understood the truth. I'm sad that he didn't. And
I'm sad that it endured. I mean, there's some tales or some things, the projects that you have that just endure. And even this year or last year, it got brought back and was even more controversial. And so I think they're just going to keep pushing that, and it's just going to...
There's a lot of reasons why it has endured and why it's, come back. And, there's all kinds of places that you can go to analyze, what it is about this that's so gripping and that people resonate with. And, that's their experience. That wasn't mine. So, but yeah, next week we're going to go to a little bit of a happier place with cats. And, it's a lot more fluffy.
And if you want a musical that's endured, hasn't one of its claim to fame been that it's been running almost nonstop on Broadway since it came out? It's like it hasn't. People go like, I went to New York. Oh, did you see Cats? So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully that will be enjoyable. Will bring us back. I'm glad we didn't end with this one. So.
Right. We want to kind of end on a good note.
A little bit of a happier, even though Cats has some interesting choices in there too. So
yeah.
We'll get into those. But yeah, I hope that you'll join us next week. We've had some fun being controversial and sad.
It was eye-opening. Let's put it that way. And and we came away with more. But the truth we came away with was the truth that we brought to this, not that we got from it.
Yeah. And just being thankful that we do have good retellings. We have good imagery, and not that the Bible needed anything added to it, because the Bible is so complete in and of itself, but the fact that we have good that was, to put on stage and to bring imagery to it.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's all we got for today, whichever it is that you're watching.
Right.
Well, we'll see you guys next time.